People travel thousands of miles to visit me in Omaha. They walk into my office expecting to find the secret to wealth. They expect to see banks of supercomputers. They expect to see complex algorithms flashing on dozens of screens. They expect to find a room full of mathematical geniuses. Instead, they find an old man sitting at a simple wooden desk, reading a book. They are almost always disappointed. They want a complicated secret formula, but the secret to winning the game of life is not what they think it is. Let us talk about intelligence. Look around your life right now. You probably know someone who is incredibly smart. I mean, the kind of person who got perfect scores on their exams. The kind of person who went to an Ivy League university. The kind of person who can solve complex equations in their head. But look closer at their actual reality today. They are drowning in credit card debt. They are on their third marriage. They are constantly stressed, chronically anxious, and they spend 40 hours a week taking orders from a boss who barely passed high school. How does this happen? How does a certified genius end up becoming a slave to a paycheck and living a life of quiet desperation? It happens because society has sold you a massive lie. From the time you were a child, the system told you that your intelligence quotient, your IQ, was a golden ticket. They told you that the smartest person in the room always wins. I have been in this game for over 7 decades. I have seen brilliant men lose everything. And I have always said investing is not a game where the guy with 160 IQ beats the guy with 130 IQ. In fact, if you have an IQ of 160, do yourself a favor and sell 30 points to someone else. You simply do not need them. And in the game of wealth, those extra points will probably kill you. To understand this brutal truth, you have to think of your brain like an automobile. Your intellect, your processing speed, your raw IQ, that is the horsepower of the engine. A certified genius has a roaring twin-turbo, 1,000 horsepower Ferrari engine under the hood. It is a beautiful machine. It is powerful. It is incredibly impressive to look at. But here's the physical reality. Horsepower is absolutely useless if you do not have a steering wheel. Rationality, emotional discipline, and a strict operating system, that is your steering wheel. If you put a 1,000 horsepower engine into a car with a broken steering wheel and no brakes, you are not going to win the race. You are just going to crash into a solid brick wall, much faster and much harder than everyone else on the track. This is the tragic flaw of highly intelligent people. They lack a steering wheel, and worse, they use their massive brain power to rationalize terrible emotional decisions. Highly intelligent people hate simple rules. Simple offends their ego. They think, I am a genius. This cannot possibly be this simple. I must find the hidden complexity. So they invent extremely complex mathematical models to justify buying into a ridiculous financial bubble. They overthink their careers until they are completely paralyzed by analysis. They use their massive vocabulary to win pointless petty arguments with their spouse, burning their own relationships down just to prove that they were right. Their intelligence becomes the exact weapon that destroys them. My partner Charlie Munger and I did not build the Berkshire Hathaway empire because we had the biggest engines. We built it because we had the best steering wheels. We never tried to be brilliant. We just woke up every single morning and tried to be a little less stupid than we were the day before. You can have a very average engine. You can have a simple, reliable 4-cylinder Ford engine. But if your steering wheel is perfectly aligned and you keep your eyes on the road and you simply avoid driving off the cliff, you will eventually lap the Ferrari that crashed in the first mile. That is what this presentation is about. I am not going to teach you how to read a cash flow statement today. I am not going to give you a secret stock tip. Those are just temporary tools. Tools change. Markets crash. Technology shifts. But human nature, the biological hardware of fear, greed, and envy never changes. Over my 90-plus years on this earth, I have codified a specific operating system, 5 foundational rules. These are the iron laws that kept me alive and compounding wealth when the so-called geniuses on Wall Street were losing their minds and going bankrupt overnight. I must warn you before we proceed. These 5 rules are incredibly simple to understand. A child could grasp them, but they are brutally hard to execute. They will require you to fight your own ego. They will require you to look like an absolute fool to your neighbors. They will require you to unlearn almost everything the system has taught you about getting ahead. If you are ready to stop drifting, if you are ready to grab the steering wheel and take control of your machine, pay close attention. Let us begin with rule number 1. Rule number 1, I call this the 20-slot punch card, or the art of absolute subtraction. We live in a world that completely glorifies busyness. Busyness has become a status symbol. If you ask someone how they are doing, they will puff out their chest and say, "Oh, I am so busy. I am working on 5 different businesses. I am learning 3 new languages. I am investing in real estate, stocks, and startups all at the same time." They wear their exhaustion like a badge of honor. They think that motion equals progress. But motion is not progress. A rocking chair has a lot of motion, but it never goes anywhere. It just burns energy. Most people operate under the false assumption that to get more out of life, you have to put more into life. They suffer from the disease of addition. They think success is about saying yes to every opportunity that comes across their desk. Let me tell you the difference between successful people and really successful people. Really successful people say no to almost everything. When I go speak to college students, I always give them a specific thought experiment. I tell them to imagine that when they graduate, they are handed a lifetime punch card. This punch card only has 20 slots on it, 20 holes. Every time you make a financial investment or a major career decision, you punch a hole in the card, but here's the catch. Once you punch all 20 holes, your card is confiscated. You are absolutely forbidden from making any more major decisions for the rest of your life. Think about the psychological impact of that card. If you knew that you only had 20 bullets for your entire life, how would you behave? You would not swing at every pitch. You would not invest your hard-earned money into your brother-in-law's new restaurant just because it sounds kind of fun. You would not buy a highly speculative internet stock just because your neighbor told you about it at a barbecue. You would stop drifting. You would become incredibly patient. You would sit and wait, sometimes for years, studying, reading, and watching. You would wait for the absolute perfect fat pitch. And when that rare life-changing opportunity finally arrives, you would punch one of your precious holes, and you would bet heavily. This is how Charlie Munger and I built Berkshire Hathaway. We did not make 10,000 brilliant decisions. Over a period of 50 years, the vast majority of our wealth came from maybe 10 or 12 truly great decisions. We just sat in a room, reading books, and saying no to 99% of the things that came across our desks. To master this rule, you have to understand a very cruel truth about human psychology. Bad ideas are not your biggest enemy. You are smart enough to avoid bad ideas. If someone asks you to put your life savings into a Ponzi scheme, your brain immediately recognizes the danger and you run away. Your biggest enemies are the good ideas. The problem is the project that is moderately profitable. The problem is the side hustle that is somewhat interesting. The problem is the social invitation that is mildly entertaining. These good ideas are dangerous because they are seductive. They are good enough to justify spending your time on them, but they are not great. And because they are not great, they will never give you exponential, life-altering returns. But they will do something terrible. They will drain your cognitive bandwidth. They will steal your focus. And they will leave you with absolutely no energy left for when the truly great idea finally appears. Every time you say yes to a good idea, you are silently murdering a great idea. You have a strictly limited amount of energy every day. If you take that energy and divide it among 20 different projects, you will move all 20 projects forward by 1 inch. You will remain invisible. But if you take that exact same amount of energy and you pour all of it into just 2 projects, you will move them forward by a mile. If you take a magnifying glass and move it around over a piece of paper, nothing happens. The paper just gets a little warm. But if you hold that magnifying glass perfectly still and you focus the entire power of the sun onto one tiny microscopic dot, you will start a roaring fire. You must become a laser beam. So here is your assignment for rule number 1. You need to become a ruthless assassin of your own good ideas. Take a piece of paper and write down the top 25 things you want to achieve. Circle the top 5. Those 5 are your destiny. But the other 20 things on that list, they are not your secondary priorities. They are your enemies. They are your avoid-at-all-cost list. You must treat them like toxic waste and never give them a single second of your attention until the top 5 are complete. You must master the art of subtraction. You must guard your punch card with your life. Rule number 2. I call this defeating Mr. Market, or the absolute necessity of emotional detachment. Let us start with a biological reality. As a human being, you are biologically wired to fail at building wealth. Your brain did not evolve in a modern financial system. Your brain evolved in the Stone Age. For tens of thousands of years, human survival depended entirely on the herd mentality. If you were walking in the jungle and suddenly the rest of your tribe started running in terror, you did not stop and analyze the situation. You did not ask for a data sheet. You ran. Because if you stopped to calculate the probabilities, you were eaten by a tiger. Fear and social conformity kept your ancestors alive. But in the modern game of wealth, the exact opposite is true. The herd is almost always wrong. Following the crowd in the financial markets guarantees absolute mediocrity and often total ruin. When I was a young man, my mentor, Benjamin Graham, taught me an allegory that completely rewired my brain. It is the single most profound lesson I have ever learned in business. He told me to imagine that I own a small fraction of a business, and I have a partner in this business. Let us call him Mr. Market. Mr. Market is a very obliging partner. Every single day, without fail, he comes to your door and names a price at which he will either buy your share of the business or sell you his share. But there is a catch. Mr. Market has a severe, untreated psychological disorder. He is an extreme manic depressive. Some days, Mr. Market is incredibly euphoric. He looks at the world and sees nothing but endless sunshine and economic miracles. On these manic days, he is terrified that you will buy him out and steal his future profits. So he names a ridiculously high price for your share. Other days, Mr. Market is deeply depressed. He looks at the world and sees only disaster, political chaos, and total economic collapse. On these dark days, he is terrified of the future. He just wants out. So he knocks on your door and offers to sell you his share for a microscopic fraction of what the business is actually worth. Here is the ultimate test of your rationality. Mr. Market is not there to guide you. He is there to serve you. His pocketbook is your opportunity, but his mood swings are not your instructions. Most people let Mr. Market dictate their emotions. When he is euphoric and prices are soaring to the moon, they feel intense envy. They watch their neighbors get rich, so they rush in and buy at the absolute peak of the frenzy. And when Mr. Market is depressed and blood is running in the streets, they feel intense panic. They sell their life savings at the exact bottom, locking in their permanent destruction. I have a very simple rule. You have probably heard it. Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. People love to print that quote on coffee mugs and posters. They nod their heads and think they understand it, but they do not understand the sheer psychological agony required to actually execute it. To be greedy when others are fearful is physically painful. When the market is crashing and the television anchors are screaming that the global financial system is collapsing, your stomach will tie itself into knots. Your friends will call you and beg you to sell everything. Your primitive brain will scream at you to run with the herd. To step forward and buy exactly at that moment requires you to become a cold, calculating machine. It requires the art of absolute emotional detachment. You must build a fortress around your mind. You must train yourself to look at a plunging stock price not as a physical threat, but as a mathematical mispricing. You must disconnect your ego, your pride, and your adrenaline from the flashing red and green numbers on the screen. This is exactly why Charlie and I stayed in Omaha, Nebraska. We intentionally stayed thousands of miles away from Wall Street. We wanted to be as far away from the manic, depressive shouting as possible. We wanted to sit in a quiet room and look at the actual value of the businesses, entirely disconnected from the emotion of the crowd. If you cannot control your emotions, you cannot control your money. So here is your assignment for rule number 2. The next time the world panics and the market drops, I want you to turn off the television. I want you to log out of your social media accounts. Do not look at the news. Look at the balance sheet. Look at the cash flow. Calculate the intrinsic value. If the value is there and the price is absurdly low, you strike. You step up and swing the bat. If the value is not there, you do nothing. Do not let a manic depressive partner dictate your destiny. Master your primitive brain or it will master you. Rule number 3. I call this the mathematics of survival or the margin of safety. Whenever people ask me for my top investment advice, I always give them the exact same answer. I tell them I only have 2 rules. Rule number 1 is never lose money. Rule number 2 is never forget rule number 1. People usually laugh when I say this. They think it is just a clever joke from an old man. They think it is physically impossible to never lose money. But I am not joking. I am stating a strict mathematical law of the universe. The biggest mistake that highly intelligent people make is that they are completely obsessed with the upside. They spend all of their time calculating how much money they can make. They dream about the yachts and the massive houses. but they spend absolutely zero time calculating the downside. They never calculate what happens if they are wrong. Let me explain the brutal mathematics of destruction. If you have $100,000 and you lose 50% of it, you now have $50,000. To get back to where you started, you do not need to make 50%. You need to make 100%. You have to work twice as hard and take twice as much risk just to get back to the starting line. If you lose 90% of your money, you need to make 900% just to break even. This is the negative compounding effect of losing capital. Once you fall into a deep mathematical hole, the walls become almost impossible to climb. This is why Charlie and I focus our entire lives on avoiding stupidity rather than seeking brilliance. In the late 1990s, there was a hedge fund run by some of the smartest people on the planet. They had mathematical geniuses. They had multiple Nobel Prize winners in economics. They were brilliant, but they used a massive amount of borrowed money, which we call leverage, to increase their returns. They wanted to get rich a little bit faster. Then an unexpected event happened in the global markets. Their models failed, and because they had borrowed so much money, they completely blew up. They lost billions of dollars and almost took down the entire global financial system. They risked what they had and what they needed to get what they did not have and did not need. That is absolute madness. It is like playing Russian roulette. If you hand me a gun with 1 million chambers and there is only one bullet in the gun, and you offer me $1 million to put the gun to my head and pull the trigger, I will not do it. I will decline the offer because the upside of $1 million is not worth the infinite downside of losing my life. A zero at the end of any multiplication equation makes the entire equation zero. You must protect yourself from the zeros. To do this, you must build what my mentor Benjamin Graham called a margin of safety. When an engineer builds a bridge and he knows that a 10,000-pound truck will drive across it every single day, he does not build a bridge that can hold exactly 10,000 pounds. If he does that, the bridge will eventually collapse. Instead, he builds a bridge that can easily hold 30,000 pounds. That extra 20,000 pounds of strength is the margin of safety. It protects the bridge against bad weather, aging materials, and heavy traffic. You must build your financial life and your personal life exactly like that engineer builds a bridge. If you need $5,000 a month to survive, do not build a life that requires exactly $5,000 a month to maintain. If you do, one medical emergency or one lost client will destroy you. Do not borrow money to buy stocks. Do not put your family home on the line to fund a risky business venture. You must leave room for human error, for bad luck, and for the unpredictable chaos of the world. If you build a massive margin of safety, you will eliminate stress from your life. You will sleep peacefully every single night, completely ignoring the panic on the television. So here's your assignment for rule number 3. I want you to conduct a stress test on your entire life. Look at your debt. Look at your investments. Look at your monthly expenses. Are you driving a 10,000-pound truck over a 10,000-pound bridge? Are you one tiny mistake away from a total disaster? If the answer is yes, you must fix the bridge immediately. Cut the leverage. Build a cash reserve. Accept a lower return in exchange for absolute survival. Because the ultimate winner is not the person who drives the fastest. The ultimate winner is the person who never crashes. Rule number 4. I call this the undeniable gravity of human association, or the absolute necessity of choosing your heroes. We live in a culture that worships the idea of individual willpower. We love the myth of the lone wolf. We are told by motivational speakers that if you just grind hard enough, if you just read enough books, and if you just possess enough inner strength, you can overcome any toxic environment. Let me tell you right now, willpower is a complete biological illusion. Willpower is exactly like a battery in your cellular phone. You wake up in the morning with a full charge, but by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, after fighting traffic, making decisions, and dealing with difficult people, that battery is completely dead. You have zero willpower left. But your environment, the people you surround yourself with on a daily basis, that is not a battery. That is a gravitational field. It pulls on you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it absolutely never gets tired. You cannot outsmart the gravity of your environment. If you hang around with 5 people who complain about their jobs, who spend their weekends getting drunk, and who constantly blame the economy for their financial problems, I can guarantee with absolute mathematical certainty that you will eventually become the 6th. You will subconsciously adopt their vocabulary. You will adopt their excuses. You will lower your own personal standards to match theirs simply because the primitive human brain is designed to seek social harmony. You will become exactly what you are around. But the exact opposite is also true. If you force yourself into a room with 5 self-made millionaires, people who read constantly, people who take extreme ownership of their failures, people who operate with absolute moral integrity, you will inevitably become the 6th. Their exceptionally high standards will become your new baseline. When people ask me for the secret behind the success of Berkshire Hathaway, they always expect to hear some complex theory about compound interest or market timing. But the real secret is my partner, Charlie Munger. Let me give you the single most important piece of financial advice you will ever receive in your lifetime. The most critical financial decision of your entire life has absolutely nothing to do with the stock market. It has nothing to do with real estate or venture capital. The most important financial decision you will ever make is who you choose to marry and who you choose to partner with in business. I chose Charlie because I desperately wanted a partner who would force me to elevate my own game. I did not want a yes man. I did not want an employee. I wanted someone who was incredibly brilliant, someone who read more books than I did, and someone who had the courage to look me dead in the eye and tell me when my ideas were absolutely stupid. If I had partnered with someone of lower character, my wealth today would be a tiny fraction of what it is. Here is the tragic mistake that highly intelligent people make. They let their fragile ego choose their friends. The human ego loves to feel superior. The ego desperately wants to be the absolute smartest person in the room. It feels incredibly good to have everyone listen to you. It feels safe to be the one with all the answers. But let me give you a brutal warning. If you look around and realize that you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the exact wrong room. You are not growing. You are slowly decaying. If you truly want to win the game of life, you must actively seek out rooms where you are the dumbest person. You must intentionally seek out people who make you feel incredibly inadequate. You want to surround yourself with people who operate at a level of discipline and intellect that actually terrifies you. When you are surrounded by giants, your brain has no choice but to adapt. You will automatically stretch yourself just to survive in that new elevated environment. Tell me who your heroes are and tell me who you associate with, and I will tell you exactly how your life is going to turn out. You will always move in the direction of the people you admire. So here is your assignment for rule number 4. I want you to conduct a ruthless audit of your social circle tonight. Look closely at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Are they pushing you upward or are they dragging you downward? Are they talking about big ideas or are they gossiping about other people? If they are pulling you down, you must have the courage to create distance. It sounds cold, it sounds heartless, but your absolute survival depends on it. When you start doing this, you will experience massive social friction. The people you leave behind will not applaud you. They will try to drag you back down to their level. They will call you arrogant. They will say that you have changed. And you must look them in the eye and say, yes, I have changed. And that was the entire point. You must fire the negative people from your life, and you must aggressively recruit heroes who will drag you toward greatness. Rule number 5, I call this the ultimate unseizable asset, or the law of internal compounding. Look at the news today. Look at the absolute state of panic in the world. People are terrified. They're terrified of inflation wiping out their life savings. They are terrified of the government raising taxes. They are terrified of artificial intelligence coming to replace their jobs and make them completely obsolete. So what do? They run around like headless chickens trying to find the perfect safe haven for their money. They buy gold. They buy speculative real estate. They buy volatile cryptocurrencies. They are desperately trying to build a wall of physical assets to protect themselves from an unpredictable future. But they are missing the most fundamental law of economics. Every physical asset you own can be taken from you. Real estate can be heavily taxed. Currency can be inflated by the government until it is absolutely worthless. A business you spent 20 years building can be destroyed by a new technology in a matter of months. The stock market can crash by 50% in a single week. There is only one investment in the entire universe that is completely immune to inflation. It is immune to taxation. It is immune to stock market crashes. That investment is your own earning power. The ultimate asset is your own mind. When I was a young man in my early 20s, I was absolutely terrified of public speaking. If I had to stand up in front of a group of people and present an idea, I would literally become physically ill. I could not do it. My intelligence, my massive engine, was completely trapped inside my head. I realized that if I did not fix this, my career was going to be severely limited. So I saw an advertisement for a Dale Carnegie public speaking course. It cost $100. At the time, that was a significant amount of money for me, but I paid the $100 and I took the course. I did not learn any complex financial models in that room. I did not learn how to value a stock. I just learned how to organize my thoughts and articulate them clearly to other human beings. Let me tell you the mathematical return on that $100 investment. It did not pay me 10%. It did not pay me 100%. It paid me millions of percent over the course of my lifetime. If you cannot communicate, it is like winking at a girl in complete darkness. Nothing happens. You can have the greatest brain in the world. You can have the cure for a terrible disease. But if you cannot articulate your ideas, your value in the marketplace is essentially zero. If you simply learn to write well and speak clearly, you will instantly increase your lifetime earning potential by 50%. It is the ultimate form of leverage. You take the horsepower of your brain and you finally connect it to the wheels. But you cannot stop there. You must turn your brain into a compounding machine. People always ask me for the secret to my success. They want a magic formula. I usually point to a massive stack of papers, annual reports, and books on my desk, and I tell them I read 500 pages like this every single day. Most people will hear that, and they will immediately make an excuse. They will say they do not have the time. But the brutal truth is they do not have the patience. They want a shortcut. They want a magic pill they can swallow that makes them a genius overnight. But knowledge does not work like that. Knowledge builds up just like compound interest. When you read a book today and you learn a new mental model, it connects with the fact you learned 10 years ago. It forms a completely new web of understanding. Nobody can see it happening. It is entirely invisible to the outside world. But over a period of decades, that slow, boring, invisible accumulation of knowledge turns into an unstoppable intellectual force. You do not need to be intense. It is completely overrated. People love the idea of studying for 20 hours straight, but intensity burns you out. What you need is consistency. Consistency is the most underrated force in the universe. Reading 20 pages a day does not sound impressive, but over 10 years, that is hundreds of books. That is an empire of knowledge. So here is your assignment for rule number 5. Stop obsessing over what the Federal Reserve is doing. Stop refreshing your stock portfolio every 10 minutes. You cannot control the macroeconomic environment. Take that anxious energy and invest it into the only asset that guarantees a return. Invest in your communication skills. Read one book a week about human psychology, history, or business. When the next economic crisis hits and the masses are panicking in the streets, your bank account might temporarily shrink, but your internal value will remain completely untouched. No one can ever tax your intellect. You will walk right through the fire and you will come out infinitely stronger on the other side. We have talked about the engine and the steering wheel. We have talked about the 20-slot punch card. We have talked about market psychology, the margin of safety, the gravity of your environment, and the ultimate asset of your own mind. If you follow these 5 rules, you will almost certainly become wealthy. The mathematics of compounding practically guarantee it. But as we reach the end of this presentation, I have to give you one final warning. I have lived for over 90 years. I have made more money than I could ever spend in 1,000 lifetimes. And because of my position, I have met some of the wealthiest and most powerful people on the face of the earth. I have seen men who own fleets of private jets. I have seen men who have their names plastered on the side of giant skyscrapers. I have seen men who can pick up the phone and call the President of the United States. But I will tell you a very dark secret about some of these men. When they reach the end of their lives and they are sitting in a hospital bed, nobody truly loves them. Their children are just waiting for them to die so they can read the will. Their spouses are only there for the inheritance. Their business partners view them simply as a stepping stone. They have all the money in the world, but they are completely and utterly bankrupt in the only currency that actually matters. To me, that is the definition of absolute failure. I do not care how many billions of dollars you have in your bank account. If you reach my age and the people who you want to love you do not actually love you, your life has been a disaster. I call this the rocking chair test. Imagine you are 95 years old, sitting in a rocking chair on your front porch. You are looking back at the long trajectory of your life. You are not going to be thinking about your stock portfolio. You are not going to be thinking about the quarterly earnings of your business. You are not going to be thinking about that promotion you got when you were 40. You are going to be thinking about the people. Did you treat them well? Did you act with integrity? Did you build a fortress of trust, or did you burn bridges just to make an extra dollar? Money is a wonderful tool. It gives you freedom. It gives you options. It removes the stress of basic survival. But money cannot buy love. You can buy a yacht. You can buy a mansion. You can even buy the illusion of respect. But you cannot write a check for $1 million and buy a single ounce of genuine human affection. The only way to get love is to be lovable. So as you go out into the world and begin to roll your snowball, remember the ultimate scorecard. Do not trade your reputation for a quick profit. Do not trade your family for a promotion. Do not climb the ladder of success only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. Play the game. Play it hard. Build your wealth. But never forget that wealth is just a byproduct of a well-lived life. Take these 5 rules. Install them into your operating system today. Stop drifting. Grab the steering wheel. That's all. Thanks for watching.